Hi everyone, Stacy Whiter here on behalf of Campus Mortgage with a three-part video series with an overview of the TRID updates that are becoming mandatory as of October 1st, 2018. Just a quick reminder before we get started, this video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice or used in place of the CFPB guidelines. Also, this video was issued on September 18th, 2018, and the information contained in this video is subject to change without notice. So all of the updates that we're going to discuss are issued in this 2017 TILA-RESPA rule detailed summary of changes and clarifications. Now what may be a little bit confusing is that the date is showing as 2017. In fact, all of these changes that we're going to be covering and the clarifications were released by the CFPB in August of 2017. And between then and now, lenders have had the choice to voluntarily put these things in place. However, these are now becoming mandatory as of October 1st, 2018. So don't get confused by the dates. That's why this shows 2017, but this is the most updated guide. And I certainly recommend that you don't use this video as a replacement for reading these clarifications. You can get this guide very easily by going to the CFPB website, or simply doing just a Google search for the 2017 TILA-RESPA rule. But again, highly recommend that you read this. There's a lot of great information in here, and we're just going to go over some of the highlights that are in this update. So let's take a look at the topics impacted as part of this update. They did some clarifications and some updates around things that need to be on the loan estimate as far as how they're reported, fee tolerance changes, things like that. Also for the closing disclosure coverage, what types of transactions are now included in TILA-RESPA. Also tolerances and revised disclosures, we're going to talk about that. Shopping for settlement services provider, when is a borrower permitted to shop, when are they not permitted to shop, how to list principal curtailments on the closing disclosure, disclosure of total payments on the disclosures, simultaneous subordinate liens, what the title company or what the lender is responsible for when they're disclosing subordinate liens, and construction loans. There's a lot of clarifications around that. So these are the topics that are impacted in this update. Again, please don't use this class as a replacement for reading the entire update. Again, this is just meant to give you the highlights. So let's talk about some of the updates and clarifications around the loan estimate in the CD. So they do give additional clarification on the use of positive and negative numbers and also as far as rounding, calculating cash to close, payoff of existing debt and unsecured liens, how they want that listed, the estimated value of the property in certain situations, the separation of consumer and seller information on the closing disclosure, and a few other miscellaneous items. So let's take a look at each one of these. So when it comes to the use of positive and negative numbers, again, they're just giving more clarification around where you can use those. So how they want you to do the rounding or the negative and the positive numbers, you can do that in the total closing costs section still, and the payoffs and payments, as well as adjustments and other credits. They also give updates for rounding, so they're just simplifying certain rounding requirements. What percent to round to, what percentage to use, and what percent to round to the 3 decimal places. They also provide some additional clarification for the cash to close table and prepaid interest on the CD. They don't want lenders to disclose just a 0. They want it to be disclosed as a $0.00. So again, just some additional clarifications. For the calculating cash to close on the LE and the CD, they provide some additional explanations of various calculations on the LE. So for example, the closing cost finance should include the sales price as payment to the third party on the LE if it's a purchase. Down payment and funds from the borrower, the calculation, they give instructions around how to do that for purchase transactions on the LE. When it comes to seller credits, those still may be disclosed as a lump sum in the calculation cash to close table, or they may be reflected in specific loan costs or other costs to which they are applicable. So again, they're just giving more clarification. They also talk about adjustments and other credits on the loan estimate, how to disclose if the amount required to be paid is more than the amount of the credits. The next category is calculating cash to close. So they provide explanations of various calculations on the CD. Again, the closing cost finance, they clarify how they want that to be calculated, and they actually provide a formula. So make sure you read the guideline to see that. They also clarify down payment and funds from borrower, again, calculation and instructions for purchase transactions. Seller credits, they provide additional instructions for that when the lender, the amount on the LE is different from the CD, when they're compared. Also adjustments and other credits. So the amounts provided in advance of closing by third parties do not have to be included in the summaries of the transaction table, and adjustments and other credits. And then disclosure of payoff of existing liens and unsecured debt. So they provide instructions on how they want lenders to disclose when you're paying off maybe a credit card, or they're paying off a second mortgage or something like that. Estimated value, this was another interesting just little clarification that they put on there for instructions on how they want the estimated value of the property to be disclosed if there's no seller, or if there's no seller and there's no appraised value that's yet been established. In those cases, they want the lender to use the lender's estimate, not the consumer's estimate. Also, another topic is separation of consumer and seller information on the CD. They give more clarification around what it can be left off the CD that's provided to the seller and what needs to be provided. And that concludes part 1 of this 3-part series. Make sure you capture, or make sure you watch part 2 and part 3. We're going to go into the rest of these topics. And again, thank you so much for watching. For more tips and videos, please visit campusmortgage.org to look for their weekly mortgage video tips designed for all mortgage professionals, including underwriters, loan officers, processors, closers, and post-closers. Have a great day. We'll see you in part 2.